Hello and thank you for joining us on Newsweek, where we highlight some of the biggest stories that made the headlines recently. I am Jacinta Obiuku. The campaign season is here ahead of a return leg at the polls after 4 years, as candidates seek to convince 96 million voters why they deserve to succeed President Muhammadu Buhari on the 29th of May 2023. Also this week, presidential candidates of all political parties signed a peace accord, committing themselves to a peaceful campaign and conduct for the 2023 election. Later on the show, we will take a look at Nigeria's 62 Independence Day anniversary, the journey so far and the quest for a better nation. All details in a moment. Stay with us. Well, the much-anticipated campaign for the nation's top seat has begun as 18 presidential candidates begin the process of convincing Nigerians to vote for them and their political parties. TVC News senior correspondent Femi Akande tells us more.
The Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, has given a go-ahead for campaigns for the 2023 general elections to begin in line with its scheduled timetable. As such, campaigns for the next year's general elections, including the presidential and National Assembly elections, has officially started in earnest. Nigeria as a nation is polarized, and the political atmosphere is currently charged, with insecurity posing a major hindrance on all fronts amid economic challenges. In the last few months, there seems to be a growing awareness of political issues among Nigerians. This is why it is expected that campaigns this time might be a little bit more intense, especially with the obvious participation of the young people clamoring for youthful leadership.
We cannot all belong to the same party. Of course, even if we do, we have our differences and we have got our sorts of ideas. So it is all together that we will get together and try to ensure that we have a country. And so my prayers is that we have a peaceful campaign which will eventually lead into peaceful election.
Even though when these young people try to come out, in some way, they are being edged out of the conversation.
Allegations and counter-allegations will increase as the days continue to unfold. Chairman of the National Peace Committee and former President of Nigeria, Abdulsalami Abubakar, advises political parties to pay attention to the provisions of the Constitution for the proper and peaceful conduct of political campaign rallies and processions.
Well, joining me now in the studio, I have political analyst Olufemi Lawson. And via Zoom, I have institutional reforms advocate Shego Awusoya. Thank you for joining us.
Good day.
Welcome. Shego, are you there? Can you hear me, Shego?
Yes, I can hear you. Thank you very much.
All right. Thank you for joining us. Now, let me begin with you. Usually, once campaigns get underway, politicians are let loose. What should Nigerians and stakeholders be looking out for differently this time as regards issue-based kind of campaigns?
Yeah, my opinion and what I will always advise and admonish is that when politicians are coming together to try as much as possible to win hearts and minds, we, the citizenry, the duty that we need to, the things we need to do and how we need to view this is to think about Nigeria as a whole, to look at the situation of the country, to look at the answers that we're seeking from our leaders, and to also look at the outcomes of whatever it is, that any candidate is bringing to the table. We should begin to look at the is statements other than the ought statements. In other words, our terminal goals are far more important. And what are the terminal goals? We know the issues on ground. We know that Nigeria, right now, we're living in deep insecurity, untold insecurity, historical insecurity that have been growing over the years, and it's getting further worse. And we know that there is a need for human capital development. We know that unity in the country, is more or less a foreign language now, because a lot of, when political session comes, when people are now beginning to run campaigns and all, the first thing they do is to create an identity politics of hate, which pitches the citizenry against themselves. And then you will spend more time fighting against one another, while political candidates themselves are making friends and marrying and enjoying themselves together. We, the followers, and we, the citizens, we take it upon ourselves to begin to see ourselves as politicians ourselves, and we start, damning people, demonizing people. And then the moment emotions gets triggered into this kind of political session, what we begin to see is that things are no longer assessed as they are. They are assessed based on our sentiments. And at the end of the day, we get lied to, we fall into the entrapment like we did during the change campaign, during the next level campaign, and people have still not learned a lot from that. And so with that, I'm imploring, rather than be confused and be pushed around, bamboozled by a religion, by tribe, by ageism, and all those, whatever it is that they're pushing out there, we should focus more on the competency of the candidates that are out there, who have the capacity to deliver, who have the capability to deliver, who have that character that we can trust, who can we hold accountable, who have the conscientiousness to begin to look at the situation of Nigeria with empathy and begin to say, look, I am not here to rule. I am here to work with Nigerians to build this nation so that we can leave a legacy for our unborn children. And this is exactly what I believe people should be thinking about. This is exactly the view through which I believe we can build this nation, other than bickering, fighting, demonizing people, targeted harassment, character assassination, and the rest of what's going on here. I've never seen anywhere in the world where you want to win the hearts and minds of the people, and then the next thing you do is you set up a hate campaign. And with that, when your campaign has been ethically challenged, then you have a lot of problems on your hands already, because Nigerians are not going to go into the election filled with emotions after going through 7 years, 8 years of insecurity, 8 years of economic downturn, 8 years of children out of school, 8 years of ASU strike, and all those things. They cannot now get to the election and then ruin themselves and further ensnare themselves towards the next 4 years. So I think the candidates and the political parties should have a reflection at this point and know that the distractions that we are seeing today with people gathering crowd and taking pictures of crowd and all, I don't know who gave the sort of advice that it is based on the number of crowd that you can pull that will win you votes in the elections. I don't think that's how it works, because you are not contesting to be a Big Brother Niger. We are not a Big Brother Niger contender. This is not a reality TV show. These elections have real life consequences. So I think they will look at that since the campaign has been opened, and they will do right by Nigerians by telling Nigerians what they are bringing to the table, why they should be voted, why they are contesting, and how they are going to solve Nigeria's problem. Thank you very much.
All right, Shegu, I'll come back to you. Let me get your view on this, Mr. Olufemi. So what do you think, or what do you say to a legal backing document, like many are suggesting, to hold this candidate accountable for their promises in case they don't get to perform eventually?
Well, I think it is time for us as a people to push our democracy to the point where we would not only be able to hold even candidates accountable, but political parties accountable. Remember that when elections are conducted, it is the political parties that appears on the ballot, not even these individual candidates. We must get to that point where before elections, the political parties must be able to sell their manifesto, their official programs and policies to the people. That is what is obtainable in other democracies. And that is why it becomes difficult for candidates to come and deny electoral promises after emerging, like we witnessed most times in Nigeria. So we must get to that point where we must begin to demand from the political parties the printed legal documents about their programs and policies, about their manifestos before elections. Because what we have now is a situation whereby candidates make promises, political parties make, sometimes even supporters come to make promises on their behalf. And when they emerge, then it becomes controversy about what we promised and what we didn't promise to do. And the government comes on board and sets its own 7-point, 9-point, 21-point agenda because there's no clear-cut manifesto. But when we have a clear-cut, manifesto, when we have a policy program, presented to Nigerians by the party, there is not going to be need for any 21-point, 7-point, 3-point agenda when you emerge as president, as governor, or whatever. It must have been known to the people that this is what this political party is coming to offer Nigerians before the election, not waiting until candidates emerge into positions and we begin to wait for several point manifesto, agenda, and a lot of which are not even, practicable eventually when they get into office.
All right. Thank you very much for your contribution so far. But right now, we would take a short break and Newsweek continues in a moment. Stay with us. You're welcome back, and it's still Newsweek, where we discuss the biggest stories that made the headlines in the week. All the candidates and the national chairmen of their parties signed the peace accord organized by the National Peace Committee in Abuja on Thursday. The signing of the peace agreement came a day after campaigns opened for the presidential and National Assembly elections. Details in this report.
Presidential candidates and their political parties have come to commit to a peaceful conduct in the build-up to next year's big election. The mood here is calm, warm and friendly. This is a sharp contrast to the narrative on social media and the public space. The National Peace Committee believes signing the peace accord will make politicians take responsibility for their words, actions and activities capable of inciting and causing violence.
Issues of major concern that have the potential to negatively impact on the integrity are emerging. One of such issues is the spread of fake news. Thus, fake news and misinformation continue to pose a significant threat to 2023 general elections.
I think we derive inspiration from Kenya and we commend them because they ran the most peaceful, most transparent, and most acceptable elections. And their institutions were able to see through that process. We hope, therefore, that the lesson we can learn from them is that these 2023 elections, despite the anxieties and the fears, that by the grace of God, the elections will be free, fair, and credible.
The efforts of the Peace Committee will enhance the work of the Independent National Electoral Commission and other relevant stakeholders.
Welcome back. I still have political analyst Olufemi Lawson, and via Zoom I have institutional reforms advocate Segun Awusoya. Segun, let me come to you now. Are you there?
Yes, I'm with you.
Okay, so a peace accord simply says these candidates are committing themselves to a peaceful campaign for the 2023 election. How realistic has this been?
Well, I must commend the chairman of the Peace Corps because every single thing he mentioned, it was more or less like reading from the script of what we have been trying to carry Nigerians along over the years from our own organization, Social Intervention Advocacy Foundation, the same organization that brought about the NSAS advocacy. We've noticed the body language of the campaigns, and we've seen how a lot of people, probably due to the youthful exuberance and due to the fact that they are eager to want to show that they are ready to participate in the elections, and they are they are beating the drums of war, they are fanning the flames of chaos. And probably they don't know, because most of the time when people do things out of emotions, they usually don't take responsibility for their own action or review the consequences of their actions ahead of time. So, but I think that with what has happened now, with the political parties coming together agree to that accord, what they are trying to do, what they are saying by signing up to that is that we can hold them accountable for whatever that comes out from the negligence of their campaign, from the negligence of their action, and for the disinformation or misinformation that may have emanated from their camp. So with this, it's a commitment, and it's something that we, the people, the necessary authorities, will be on the lookout for, to be able to say, look, this is happening, it is coming from your camp, you need to caution your people or take responsibility for the consequences. And I think that's the way forward to begin to chart the path towards a free and fair election.
All right. I'll come back to you, Shego. Let me have your thought on the idea that the APC presidential candidate, that's Bola Ahmed Tinubu, was absent, and there were concerns over that. And he was represented by his vice presidential running mate, that's Kashim Shettima. What do you think this matter? The idea that people are asking why he was not there, does this matter?
I think those who have raised that question have raised it out of the fact that a lot of persons anticipate seeing Asiwaju Bola Tinubu wherever this issue of 2023 political activities are going to be discussed. So there's not a lot of place for people to ask where Asiwaju was. But I don't think it is the first time that a candidate of a major political party will be absent. Even in the last elections peace accord, the then candidate of the PDP, former Vice President Atiku Abubakar, was absent when he later had to go and sign this peace accord at the Secretariat of the National Peace Committee. So it is not out of place. Most importantly, the hierarchy of the political party was fully represented. His running mate was there on his behalf. And I think ultimately, we should appreciate the fact that not only was his running mate there, but the presence of virtually who is who, in his party, the All Progressives Congress, at that meeting, accord signing, becomes very important, and of course should be commended. And just like I said, it is not the first time we are seeing this, and that is just one of the many, processes that we will witness in the election. And I think we should be looking forward to seeing Asiwaju in subsequent, public engagement, even before the political parties embark on their nationwide campaign for this election. So, like I said, it is out of the anticipation of people willing to see his presence, but I don't think it is the first time we're experiencing this. Yeah.
All right, briefly, before we go to our last story for tonight, how can we curtail this issue of this candidate shifting focus from issue-based campaign to engaging in personal attacks and insult, and as well, online bullying and all of that?
It's a major issue, and that is why I will keep commending the initiative of the National Peace Committee, because if this is not done, there are a lot of danger, especially if you look at the generation of people that are going to be participating in this election. We have a generation that are going to be voting for the first time, in our elections, coming en masse to participate. And unfortunately, majority of people within that generation, particularly those who are supporting one of these new political parties that are participating in the election, do not believe in a persuasive approach towards canvassing support for their candidate. To them, it is either you support their candidate or you are an enemy. And this is why these candidates have to be held responsible more than signing of this accord, even by the INEC, to seriously embark on educating and cautioning their supporters so that they will not take this attitude of online bullying, harassment of people with dissenting opinion to physical assault, because we are beginning to see threats of physical assault even to some persons, because of this for this coming election. So it's a major issue and it stands condemnable, and we must continue to prevail on these candidates to call their supporters to order.
All right, thank you very much so far. And finally on the show, President Muhammad Buhari joined current and past leaders to mark Nigeria's 62nd Independence Day anniversary parade held at Eagle Square, Abuja. Traditionally, President Buhari marked the special day with a special broadcast to Nigerians as early as 7 a.m. TVC correspondent Saifon Essien tells us more.
President Buhari marked the commencement of events. He inspects the guards mounted by personnel of the Nigerian Army, Navy, Air Force, and other paramilitary organizations, as well as the National Youth Service Corps. This paved the way for the march past in both slow and quick times. At this point in the parade, the harmonic movement by the students of the Nigerian Military School stole the show. The event peaked with an air show by the Nigerian Air Force. It was not a speech-making event, but the body language of the dignitaries present was that of gratitude that against all odds, the country remains one. Sifon Asian, TVC News, Abuja.
Welcome back. Shego, are you there? Let me just give you, I need your third on this last question briefly. Now, it's understandable that there is no perfect system or country around the world, but should we be where we are now at 62? Are you there, Shego?
Yeah, I can hear you. Yes. Can you take it again? I didn't get the question.
Okay, so I was asking if you think we should be where we are at 72, looking at 62 rather, looking at the fact that no country or system is perfect, but should we even be here now at 62?
Remember when I was trying to answer the first statement other than the ought statement? I mean by that, we see what it is. We're in the present. We have learned from the past because there is no amount of anxiety that's going to fix our future. And we must know by now that the indoctrination that is about political office should be, we will not and cannot move forward without the coalition itself and their leaders to move the nation forward. So that handshake has not been there. We have been growing in deceit. We have been growing in a lot of, during campaigns, you have a lot of false representation, false marketing and deception and the rest. And then at the end of the day, after we are woken up from our emotions, we begin to see reality, and then we begin to exercise discontent because we're now disappointed. The bubble has been burst, and we're now disappointed at what we're saying. So the way forward is to see ourselves as part of the solution of the country, to engage our authorities and our leadership in such a way that we are contributing to that nation building. And we all can do this. An example has been made with the NSAS movement, with the way, since I'm not talking about the protest now, because a lot of people joined very late and they don't understand the traction and the science and art behind that advocacy, which has brought us the Police Act, the Police Trust Fund, the Electoral Act, and several other acts that have become instrumental to the movement of the country progressively. So if you look at that, if you want to focus on what is not working in any country, happening, if you go all over the world, there are issues, and these countries are older than us when you want to look at when they gained their independence. So as we are, the most important thing for us is not what is not working. It's how we can continue to build on the foundation that is on ground, and how we can continue to see a sustainable change, based on the collaboration of the citizenry and their leadership. So, and it starts from participation in the election. It starts from showing up during the election. It starts from not just sitting down and complaining, not just playing the victim card, but going there positively, knowing that we're citizens of this nation and contributing our own little quota. And with this, if everybody shows responsibility or takes responsibility, Nigeria will move forward at a faster pace. So I am not too disappointed as to where we are. I know things could have been better, but it is what it is. This is what we have. And the only thing that we cannot afford to do is point fingers. We need to take responsibility and say, probably because of the fact that the Nigerian citizenry probably don't understand the power of the citizen. If you know the power of the office of the citizen, you will know that we dictate what happens at the presidency. We dictate what happens at governance. Because without our participation, if we just want to sit down on social media and continue to complain, there will always be something to complain about. But if we decide to say, this is the issues that we are focusing on, and several other people pick different other issues, and we are holding them to account, and we are contributing our own little quota, Nigeria will move forward, and we'll be proud of this nation because we are part of the building process.
All right, we're almost out of time. Thank you for your contribution so far. Finally, let me hear from you. We have another time to reset Nigeria's direction come 2023 election. What do you think Nigerians and stakeholders should do to, ensure smooth election?
Ultimately, we must look beyond, making it just a ritual. 4 years, we're electing somebody else. We should take serious interest in who becomes the president of Nigeria come 2023, because just like you said, 62 years, are we really happy about where we are? Truly, no country have not had its own past like we have had, and there will always be need for improvement. A lot of countries went through decades before they actually got to where what we are seeing today. But 2023 must be taken seriously to the extent that we elect leaders with clear-cut vision of what Nigeria requires at this time. It is not going to be a moment to come and experiment leadership. It's not going to be a moment to come and run trial and error. It is a moment where you elect a leader that is clearly, that is clear enough in the understanding of what Nigeria requires at this point to take over and move the country, to another level in advancing our cause as a nation of 62-year-old. Where should we have been? Of course, 62 would not have taken us to the Eldorado. But the truth is that where should we have been at 62? We need the kind of leader, not only the president, the governors and the likes, members of the National Assembly that are going to be elected, must be those that are willing to work for the cause of Nigeria, for the sake of Nigeria and nothing else. If we elect these kind of leaders who are prepared and are ready, I'm sure we'll be able to advance not only the cause of the prosperity of our country, even the cause of our democracy, at large.
All right. Thank you very much, political analyst Olufemi Lawson, for coming on the show.
It's my pleasure.
And as well, thank you, the institutional reform advocate Segun Awosonya, for coming on the show.
Thank you very much for having me.
Thank you. All right, as well, thank you for joining us. And that's our show for today. Remember, you can follow the conversation on social media platform at TVC News NG or on our website at tvcnews.tv. I am Jacinta Ubiuku. Until next week, it's goodbye.